As the last speaker of today's public discussion forum, we have Mr. M. Camillus de Hoedt, representing the Institute of Supply and Material Management. Mr. M. Camillus de Hoedt is the General Manager, Supply Chain and Engineering of Richardson Group of Companies. He is also a consultant, a visiting lecturer, course director and a member of the Council of Management of the Institute of Supply and Material Management, Sri Lanka. He obtained his master's degree at the Rajaratnam University of Sri Lanka after obtaining his graduate level qualifications in the area of the supply chain management at the Institute of Supply and Material Management, Sri Lanka. He also had undergone many supply chain related trainings, courses and workshops both locally and overseas. So welcome on stage Mr. M. Camillus de Hoedt to do your presentation.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. So most of all, I sincerely take this opportunity to congratulate the organizing committee of the SLIA for organizing such a wonderful event today. So then my presentation today with regards to the management of supply chains in the construction industry. So without taking much of your time, I would little bit explain about what is supply chain management and how the supply chain management is working in the construction industry, and then some of the issues that we are facing at the moment, and then finally the suggestions. The supply chain management is a flow of production and services from raw material manufacturers and then intermediate product manufacturers and then end product manufacturers, wholesalers, distributors and the retailers. So all these people are involved in supply chain management. So what supply chain management do is, by transformation and storage activities integrated through information, planning and integration activities, and there are cost and service levels to be achieved. And then very briefly about supply chain management. So we need to have raw materials. So very basic level, the raw materials, maybe we are in different locations maybe in the world by growing, by farming or the harvesting, and then by excavating, by mining, the basic raw materials are found, and then there are suppliers who are dealing with those raw materials for manufacturers, and then manufacturers manufacture maybe intermediate product or maybe the final products, and then there are distributors and then channels to transform from one place to the other, and then we have retail locations, and then we have customers in supply chain management. And then if we further go in little bit deep in this area, now let's say if you take the example of garments, now we have consumers who are utilizing garments, and then for them to buy garments, there are retailers, and then from retailer the consumers are buying, and then retailer are buying from the distributor, and then distributor is buying from the manufacturer, and then manufacturer need to, the garment manufacturer need to find the materials, maybe fabric from the fabric manufacturer, and then fabric manufacturer has to buy his raw materials maybe from yarn manufacturer, and then yarn manufacturer has to find or purchase his raw materials from cotton manufacturer or maybe cotton yards, and then to grow or to harvest the cotton from their yards, they need the support of the nature. And then if you go back to the other end, we have consumer, and then after utilizing, what we do is we send it to garbage, and then through the garbage we add them to the nature, and then this is how usually the supply chain is working when it comes to any kind of machinery or raw material or an item or whatever it is. And to do this, we require machinery, and then machinery are required for all these activities, and then we require warehousing, and then procurement. Then procurement is to transform all these maybe raw material or semi-finished products or finished products to one point to the other, and then warehouse we require to keep maybe before they utilize for manufacturing as raw materials, and then after they manufacture as finished products, we require warehouse management, and then transportation. So when it comes to supply chain management, we need to learn about warehousing, procurement, and then transportation, and the materials and services we require in all these activities, and then information we require, and then the funds. And when it comes to all these things, we call as supply chain management. And then we are talking about being competitive by one organization to another, or one company to another, or as a competitor, how do you compete each other? That is, in supply chain context, today the competition is between supply chains of individual company, not by the particular company itself alone. So the supply chain is always giving us the competitive advantage as any organization. Now when it comes to the construction supply chain, so we have raw material and then component manufacturers, and once the component manufacturers are manufactured, so then it goes to OEM manufacturer, and then through supply house goes to individual construction sites. For that we need labor supply chains and then equipment supply chains as well. And here it shows how the end customer and then the construction and civil companies, and then professional services like architects and the other professionals are involving in the industry. So then we have material supply chains and labor supply chains and the equipment. And here also it shows how these different activities are integrated in the construction industry. Okay, so then just we'll go through some of the issues that we are facing today as a industry. So we find the payment delays, and then suspended government projects, and then difficulty in importing goods directly to supply chain, and then increased bank rates, and all these difficulties are there. And some of the challenges. Now, whatever the materials and equipment that we are utilizing in the industry, 66% is imported, and then 22% imported and partly processed in the country, so the value added, and then only 12% of the items that we are utilizing in the industry is manufactured locally. And then the point number 2, the raw material scarcity in the international market. Now in my organization, we are importing certain products from many different countries. So even today we are facing a lot of difficulties in importing materials. Now for an example, if some time back, if you imported certain materials within 1 to 2 months time, certain products that are required even sometimes more than 1 year. So recently we imported a particular product for a particular construction or for a particular project, it took about 13 months for us to landed and cleared and hand it over to the customer. So that nature of difficulties are facing in the supply chain. So then one of the other issue is finding substitutes, local substitutes for the material or the equipment that we are utilizing is at great difficulty, and then limitation on the mining industry or the crushing industry, things like explosives, those things also we need to import. So the finding of those things also at a very great difficulty. And then so there are many issues. I am sure definitely in the next 2 days you will listening to more and more difficulties from the other speakers. So likewise here I have included about 17 difficulties. So so as the final point I have mentioned in the challenges, the supply chain management decisions are made by non-supply chain management professionals in the industry. So that I have seen even in my experience for the last nearly about 20 years in the construction industry. Altogether I have about 32 years experience in supply chain industry. So in many organizations and many industries, I have seen that the supply chain, the decisions are made by non-supply chain professionals. I am saying this with due respect to all other professions. So I know that everybody knows the procurement and the supply chain management, but the point here is there is a question whether all of us that who we know, even though we know the purchasing, whether we are properly learn how to do correct procurement process, or whether we have got the enough experience and the knowledge to function this particular area. Okay, so then we'll go to the suggestions. So the first one is the creating of neutral specifications. Creating specifications, sometimes I have seen in many occasions with our previous experience, with our previous good experience with certain material, whenever we create a specification, there is tendency of going towards the good experience kind of things. So and then point number 2, the identification of new construction material innovated. Now today, even in Sri Lanka, we see there are a lot of new innovations. Little while ago, we saw another innovation done by one of the prominent organization. So likewise, there are a lot of innovations happening in the world as well as even in Sri Lanka. So I think now many of these things even we do not know at the time of making the specifications. So I think it's better if we can at the time of creating specification to find out, or before the specification to find out what are the new or the innovative products that are available in the country. And then point number 3, as I mentioned earlier, involve enough supply chain professionals into this activity, and then conduct market surveys. And then before we place purchase orders, we need to do an action plan considering the particular HS codes of the item in case if we are importing, the tariff and the approvals. Now I saw even day before yesterday some of the new directions were issued by the policymakers, changing some of the import-export tariffs and the procedures. So likewise, we have to do all these things, because otherwise what happens is, during the time of importing or during the time your goods is in the ship, so certain HS codes or certain clearance procedures might have been amended, and then you might be in deep trouble at the time of clearing the material. And then again, be open-minded and allow all or the maximum possible amount of suppliers to come and present their products at the time of making the decision of purchasing certain items. And then even I have seen when it comes to certain construction projects, we limit, we after selecting certain products, even the products that are freely available in the market, sometimes we select maybe only 1 or 2 suppliers to supply that particular item maybe throughout the project. So by doing, by making that nature of decisions, sometimes the supplier take the advantage, and by creating a monopolistic situation within that, that project, sometimes it might end up with many difficulties during the project. So then to avoid, always we are trying, if we can, at least select 1 or maybe 2 or 3 suppliers. So then always through the competition, we might be able to ensure that we are getting the correct product at the correct terms. And then also need to promote precast concrete products. I know that some time back the precast concrete products were in the market, and it was very famous. And but now I see, or even you all might have noticed that there is no much involvement. But here I would like to suggest wherever the possibilities are exist, to promote those products. And then the substitutes maybe for timber or maybe for other products, to ensure that that our nature as well as the raw materials to be utilized with due care. And then another point here I have mentioned as the point number 11, the restore our ironmongeries and the light fitting related industry, which some time back we had even in the Pilimitala and Kirivavula areas. But I know that even today that particular industry which is functioning in Kiribadgod area is still functioning quite well. But I think as an industry, if we can ensure those kind of manufacturers to be protected through the industry, I think that would be another suggestion. And then the construction demolished based material, I think that is also one of the areas. If we can think about that nature of products to be developed and support whoever is willingly start that nature of industry, I think that also one of the sufficient area if we can improve. And then the other point, the implementation of National Procurement Committee. So today we see that the National Procurement Committee is not in operation. So I think if we can, if the government level can reorganize that with the due representation of the supply chain professionals. So I would suggest the Institute of Supplies and Materials Management also can involve and support to the nation. And then I am not going to read all these things. So, but point number 19, I would like to highlight the collaborative culture with reduced fragmentation for all processes in the construction industry. So we see that we have even the construction industry is one particular area. We have many different organizations, even chambers. We have number of chambers, and then we have different kind of organizations, but they are working in certain fragmentation. So I think if we can reduce that, and then if we can elect due representation to representing the entire industry to negotiate with the government level and the policy level, I think that would be another good initiative if we can make it. So with that note, I conclude my presentation. So if there is any questions, I would like to answer.